welcome to our next panel. How many of you so far have picked up, say, more than 5 Star Tots? Wow. Okay, that's great. And how many more than 10 at this point? Impressive. Okay, so but looks like a few of you don't have complete sets. So there's good news. On Monday, tomorrow, at 5, we will give out all the remaining Star Tots, and we have duplicates of extras of all of them. So if there are any particular ones you need, if you line up, actually get here early. It's usually better to get here early and line up just after our last panel, and we'll give away the remaining Star Tots. So just keep that in mind. Just come over here. It'll be in this room, and so just hope many of you can complete your sets then. Now, our next presenter is somebody that actually some of you may know him by name, but I know almost everyone here is probably familiar with his work because it has pretty much touched every Star Wars, almost every Star Wars Kenner and Hasbro toy that has come out during the most of the years that we've been collecting. So I want to introduce to you Kim Simmons, who's going to talk about a lot of the photography that's gone into the toys.
Okay, yes, I am the man who shot Luke Skywalker. And I did not just grab that out of the sky. That actually was the title of the article that most of you may know that they gave to me. You can turn the lights up. It's okay. I think as long as people can see what's going up. As long as they can see that's going on there. Okay, before I want to let everybody know, I was not the first guy to start shooting the Star Wars. There was actually just Roy Frankenfield. He was the man I worked for, but he'd been shooting it from the day one until I came in on the scene. And then Jack Wiemeyer. Jack Wiemeyer, we call him Big Jack. I do, anyway. He did all the displays, the store displays that you all started collecting that you'd see in the stores, the Bell and whatever. I'm the one that got the notoriety because I was still shooting Star Wars. And I continued up till 2000. And so they just it kind of stuck. And I always like to mention Roy and Big Jack. This is Big Jack. He was one of the 2 main photographers. He was a big food photographer at the time, back in the 80s, 60s to 80s. Not very many people knew about him. If they had, they dumpster dived him big time, because in everything that he shot ended up in Rumpke landfill. If Kenner didn't take it, which is the 1 or 2 frames, or the studio didn't take it, it ended up in the landfill when he moved out of his studio on 8th Street. He didn't offer it to me, otherwise I'd have grabbed it. Let's see. There's Roy. This is on a photo shoot that we went up to. We were going up to shoot a CEO. So I was a big fan of Polaroid. I would shoot until I was ready to shoot the film, in this case until the CEO came in. So getting ready, getting things lit and everything. Roy was the stand-in. That is Roy. So get it all squared away. And I had to be reminded that, Kim, you really did shoot that, because Terry Bernard, who later became replaced in guys I worked for, he had to send me this next image because I didn't have it. He sent me the image because I literally gave the whole roll to them, well, all the film to them, which happens sometimes. And this is Joe Mendelson. He stepped in after I'd already lit it up, set it up for Roy. Roy stepped up, stood beside me, and I nailed it. So, but I had to be reminded of that. You hate getting old, don't you? But anyway, getting back to the Star Wars, the rain stuff that you're all interested in. The card back images. Roy, I had to even verify this because it's kind of like, did Roy shoot this? And I didn't think he did. Based on what I'd seen, literally lived with Roy for almost 7.5 years. Didn't quite seem right, but this was Roy, because I checked with the art director, that I know. That actually was the art director at the beginning, outside of Kenner, what is now the design studio. This was Roy. Roy shot it. Roy shot all the ones from the 12 back cards, everything that was back had anything to do with it as far as the cards were concerned. Roy did. And even the small catalog stuff, I mean, he did it. Up until I came in. And then, but anyway, it's a long story. So this is Roy setting up the shot. It appears that's what's happening. 5 minutes before this, I was doing this. Roy was in his office, and I remembered, oh, I've got to get out the camera. I need to take pictures of me shooting this. How am I going to do that? Roy, can you come here? I need you to come out here. Well, let me take pictures of you. No, Roy, I really want pictures of you doing this. So I have very few pictures. There's only like 4 or 5 total that I have of Roy doing what he did. I get the credit. I understand that, but I like to let people know there was somebody ahead of me. There was somebody else. It's important that he was there. You all should know it. And he'd say, let me go to the other room, Kim, you just do it. I know what Roy would do. You don't work with somebody 10 hours a day and not know him for 7 or 8 years. So, and this was one of my favorite toy lines, is the micro line. And Roy, actually you're seeing the setup, how I did it. That's how big the set was. So, those are my pictures of Roy. And that's the final one right there. Now, little tiny story here. Some of you out there have heard it. Why is R2 turned backwards? Well, what happens is I'm setting this up. I'm given a circle. Kim, we need all these figures close in together, make it look good. Okay. Got it set up, had R2 turned around the right way. And you know what? They had this void right there, and you don't want a void in the photo. Well, I'm looking at it, and okay, I got to do something. Well, dang, this dome wouldn't turn around. For whatever reason, I couldn't get the dome turned around. So I just turned him around. It made sense. They told me that there was going to be a banner running across it, so it won't make any difference. It did, as you can see in the photo there, in the little inset. You can see that he's going backwards. That's not my fault. It is my fault, but it's not my fault. They could have said, oh, wait a minute, we'll get you another R2. No, they didn't do that. The one thing is, after working with me for a little while, they learned really quick that all they had to do was tell me, Kim, we need it now, and I'd make it happen now. And and this is way before digital. So that was it. You don't wait around. Now, this is one of those where they did say, Kim, it's Thursday night, Wednesday night, and we have this vehicle, we need it shot, and we need it shot done really quick. So I said, okay, fine. But that's the end of the day. And Roy hated paying me overtime. I mean, I was making all of $5 an hour doing this stuff. So when I hit 40 hours, he didn't like that. But anyway, I took it home, and I had my own little studio there. I shot this all hot light. I took it home, had the surface, took the beeswax home, and I shot it that night on all negative because I knew that it was all going to be airbrushed. That is what an unairbrushed image looks like. Maybe similar to the one, it may not be the exact one that was used. It might be, I can't I never can remember. But yes, I used this model. This thing was heavy. It was maybe a first shot. So it was a little on the heavy side. And so, I used a needle to hold it up. I used a lot of beeswax everywhere. It worked. And yes, it is sticking to that door. And yes, that is my bedroom door as I was growing up as a kid. My wife and I, my son, were living in the downstairs section of this huge house. My father had long gone, died. And so we were taking care of the house when my mother was off in Arizona, California, Mexico, wherever. So I was at the present, as an adult, I lived behind this door. As a kid, I grew up behind this door. And that was my door. Now, right below this, obviously out of camera sight, are about 4 pillows. Because my neck would have been on the line. It was on the line if this thing had fallen and hit the ground. It was a linoleum floor. It would have shattered into so many pieces. So here we go. Here's your beauty shot as it existed. Before Billy Ellison got a hold of it. Billy Ellison was a master airbrush artist. So I get attributed to all this, how beautiful everything is. Well, trust me, there was a guy in my back pocket. And I knew it. I'd sit there and watch him work sometimes whenever I'd get the chance. And I took advantage of it. He said, "What do you want to know, Kim? I'll teach you anything you want to know." I just liked watching him work. I figured by osmosis, some of it would catch on. It never did. I did buy an airbrush, but it never did work well in my hand. I liked the cameras in my hand instead. I never met a camera I didn't like. So anyway, going on. Yes, I created the mountains. I multi-purposed these mountains many times. As you maybe not have noticed it. I don't know. But I did. And I utilized them. The ivory snow I kept in bags. We're a little out of order. I don't pay attention to a lot of order. I just go by the way it flows for me. So don't hold me to any timetable here. It's because of the reason the mountains were there, which you'll see later. But you're looking at about probably a good part of a day of setting up by the time I get it started and get it done. Film would take about 2 hours because I really pushed the lab to get things done. They had pickup and delivery, and I took advantage of it completely. I'd expect things back in 2 hours. It takes a little over, get there, back, and it took better than an hour to get it done. So I had them on a schedule. And trying to keep the snow, nobody expects, now today, going through all this film that I've now let out to the collectors, it's out there who've collected it, I scanned all these things, extremely high resolution. So as we're doing it, I blow them up. We're trying to retouch them for prints. Boy, were they dirty. The dust, but the images on the photos that you'd see are clean. Well, you can't see it. I'm picky about this. If I'd have known what I know now, looking back, doing what I could have, was like, man, I'd have had a brush out there every single minute cleaning those things off. But that's me. Anyway, going on. Here we go. This is the prototype. Literally, they'd walked in the door about an hour before this. That is Roy's daughter, Jenny. Whenever she'd show up, I managed to always use her arm. Hands. Roy's and I hands were huge compared. We needed small, delicate hands. This was just for preliminary photography. This is what we'd have to go through. How we're going to do things. How it kind of introduced me to the toy to figure out, okay, I've got to figure out how to light this stuff. And that's the way it was. Well, after this one, came to this. And right at this point in time, it was no more, not just, it was just concentrate on the beauty shot, front shot. So minimal, never could get Roy to spring for real plants for the back. He just didn't know. So I pull out the phony stuff and create the, peat moss, whatever we'd have, and light it real quick because, hey, guess what? This had to be out the door yesterday because, hey, guess what? It's got to go to the lab to get processed, and after the lab, it has to get a print, and then they have to airbrush it and so on. And they have to, everything has to get blessed after that. That's the way it works. From there, goes to the comp. Well, shoot it again, shoot it again. Once it goes to that stage and it's going to the toy fair, be blessed by the powers that be, we'd go to the final photography. Still couldn't get him to go for those real plants. And it would have been so much nicer with real plants in there. But this is an all-day shoot right here. Getting it set up, getting my sand mixture just right. I'd spend a lot of time doing that. Getting it lit. But then we had what we called the Darth Vader lights. I was using them. Those are basically little tiny minis. This is all hot light. And they were little tiny not strobes, but little tiny optical lights. And they'd have optical strobes on them. And I keep using the wrong word. Optical lenses that we could focus in to really, and the water stops, to get the narrow the beam down, and you'd light it, just like I'd light a pencil head, not too far away, but I could light it up. And usually Darth Vader and guys who were just really on the dark side, I'd have two of them on there until I learned later. I'll talk about Darth Vader a little bit later. This is one of the few times that I actually used a backdrop from the movie, I think. Or if it wasn't from the movie, it was something that looked good. And still those damn phony plants. But that's the way it worked. Yeah, they kind of still to this day it gripes me that I couldn't go to the real plants. And yes, it would take a long time to get him to stand up. It just would. To give you an idea, there's a setup. Camera's right there to the right, and you'll see all the little lights that I'm using. I've actually got that. There's two overheads. Those are quartz soft lights, softbox lights. As soon as I could get away from those, I did. I hated those things. So there you've got that. Now let's go look at the real image. That's the final, at the 8x10 shot. If I remember right, this was a catalog shot. To this day, it's like people have to tell me catalog shot, package shot. It's like I was just shooting as fast as they told me to do. They needed it done, I was doing it. And this was done on a Saturday when Roy wasn't around. He finally got used to the idea that I just had figured my own hours out, and at the end of the pay period, I give my hours. He said, oh, all right, because I was making him money, and that's all that mattered. And I loved what I was doing. So what difference did it make? Well, I didn't get to see him much, but that's beside the point. You want to see what a preliminary looks like? There it is. It's me I'm setting up the shot. I don't have all the figures yet. I'm on hold on waiting, but I don't like to be on hold for very long. So I make use of it. I'm going to shoot a bracket if I can. So if I'm waiting, why don't I go ahead and shoot something? I'd shoot a Polaroid, but let me get my film in place. So you got this. Here's my overlay. That's literally what I would use. Piece of tissue paper sometimes. Sometimes I would take apart an 8x10 sleeve, and I'd trace it, for especially something like this, to get an idea how much room I actually had, where I needed to be. Cloth only comes so wide, and that's where I had to be. There's no there's no Photoshop to give me that extra. Then there might be a final shot. And in the final shot, there would be a whole lot underneath of it. There'd be a little, actually, I'd get a lot more on either side and down below. For this show, I just kind of crop it in. But this next one will show you. So that's pretty much the entire piece of film. And I would go through, I would just like, remember we were going, when I first arrived there, it was, I walked in the door, Roy says, there's your position up there on that ladder. Okay, I'm literally looking down, 45-degree angle. I was about 6 to 8 feet up in the ground, up in the air, looking down at a table that's 36 inches off the ground or whatever it is. And I'm lighting these figures of his Darth Vader head insert, and off the ladder, up, off the ladder, back and forth. And I had never shot an 8x10 sheet before. Now, mind you, I was still had to complete my thesis for my master's, but in grad school, I couldn't afford 8x10. That was a little bit out of my financial range. So first thing I had to do is learn how to load up an 8x10 sheet of film. I learned real quick. And thank God I never screwed up one sheet. It's just a big 4x5. Very big. But anyway, this is what it was. This is kind of like my working. This is literally my working diagram. You're seeing right here, because how many rows can I get to make this work? I'd go back and tell them, show them. Okay, fine. No, do this. Okay, we'd work on it a little bit because they were getting so many figures they needed to put up. I had to come up with a way to display them. So basically, there are steps. They're literally 2x4s on a 1x4, 1x3 that I built steps on. And then I just draped the material over it. That's how it was done. Just the 93. Like I say, I jump all over the place. Because next, I like the micro line. I don't know what it is. I just like them. This was a sales slide for a sales slide presentation for General Mills for Kenner was doing. I think this was a catalog shot. Setting all those things up. I mean, I loved it. I honest to God did. I mean, but then again, with these big things handling these tiny little things, that became the issue. It's like, give me some tweezers. But I really liked it. And I was like, what happened to the line, guys? It's a great line. What'd you do? Well, I didn't find out until later. They just ran out of, they just didn't have the money allocated for it. They didn't know what they were doing. They didn't know how to market it. That's the storyline they told me. They didn't know what they had. There's a close-up of the Bacta station. This was a catalog shot. I do remember that because that was for Harry Reisinger. What? Couldn't hear you. What catalog? It was for a Toy Fair catalog. Toy Fair catalog. Good, thank you. At least I remember doing it for Harry for that. Now, whether that came about, I don't know. You all know better than I do. I just did the work. Sorry. Now this was an interesting when this came out because the guy, I remember Roy walking in with this and I go, oh, cool. I don't know what they are, but that's kind of cool. And I proceeded to put it on we had an 8-foot sweep, a plexiglass sweep, and I started setting it up and lighting it and coming out. And Roy came out and he came out of his office and he goes, what in the hell are you doing? And I said, I'm lazy. You can't light through that plex. It's just not going to work. Okay, I'm going to play with it though. He said, well, you ruined that plex. It's coming out of your paycheck. Yeah, thanks. I didn't need that because that's a paycheck, literally a paycheck. But it worked, and they loved it. I really like because there is no Photoshop there other than going in and cleaning it up. Okay, when I say clean up, it's called get out the specs from the film because there's a ton of stuff on the film, and then you'll have scanning artifacts go in there. But other than that, that's the film. I really just love that image. Both of those images, I should say. Okay, here we go. Oh, you're going to love this next one. I found this in my archives. Those of you that have seen me talk or heard me talk about the TIE Fighter, the Interceptor, I said, well, they told me not to. Well, I proved myself wrong. I found this one. And then I had to go ask some questions. It's like, why didn't I do that? Well, even though this was a test shot, they looked at it and they're going, oh, whoa, this is pretty dark, isn't it? I said, yeah, he is. He's black. What do you expect? He's black. Well, you're going to light up the background. Yes, I'm going to light up the back. I've got something I'm going to put back there that's going to be a scene of some sort. He's going to be awfully dark, Kim. No, no. Let's go to put a TIE Fighter pilot in it or Storm. I don't care. Just put somebody else in it. Okay. You do as you're told to do. So I still worked on it a little bit. I didn't like giving. I mean, it's literally. I had to be reminded this. It's kind of, as I say, you got to get the cobwebs out so you can see what's going on. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I did. So you can see him a little bit better. That is pretty much an unretouched image right there. And I worked with it. It's forward projection, and that is stainless steel. I guess a stainless steel Formica surface that I got for this. I drove Roy batty with my selection of backgrounds and said, you need another background. For what? Well, I've got to mix it up a little bit. But still, I'd work on, I think I did 3 or 4 views of this, just changing it around a little bit until I can get where I really liked it. And also, they really liked the C variety. I'd make them all fit within the package, but it's like, okay. But, they wouldn't always give me all the secrets until they're in there. So finally, they saw this one. Okay, now this was on a Saturday. You save your best one to the last so that their heart is sinking down, down, down. So here's the one. Oh, great, you nailed it. Good, we're good. Okay. Believe me, that's what you had to do back then. Well, at least that's what I had to do with these guys. Great guys to work with, but still. Because nobody told me about that little circle. Just, here's the type, Kim. Okay. Okay, now here's the shuttle. Kim, we need some concept work on the shuttle. Come up with some kind of weird, funky background, and we'll go from there. Okay, so I did come up with this funky background, and they said, yuck. Well, where do you want to go? Well, how about something like this? Oh, we could have started with that, couldn't we? Yeah. you got to remember, these guys played games with me too, you know. So, okay. Now, mind you, the movie was not out yet. At least I don't remember seeing the movie before this. I just did it. So anyway, I'm working on this, and I didn't get it exactly where I wanted it because I literally watched Roy's tears grow up on this one, and he'd drop because I was drilling holes every so often. I was coming up with, my concept was to have lights coming up. See those holes, if you look real careful, I might not have them in there, but there are little tiny Christmas tree lights. I wanted them lit up, and just enough to where they really projected out. And yeah, they're there. And then I had to come up with a computer board. And where do you find one in the early 80s? Cheap. That means free. Because, you know, and luckily I found one. Somebody burned out something from a printer, or whatever it was. I didn't care. So I had to come up with this. It worked. So still, this is all 8x10, and I was shooting Polaroids left and right. I know I was. Still working. I think this is pretty close to the final image that I shot. Again, before Billy got a hold of it. It's always best to give it a go, take it as far as you can, and which I did. There it is. That's the finished art after Billy. That is Billy's airbrushing over that previous image. He knew what I was trying to do because I told him. I wanted the lights to, so by giving him the holes, he was able to project up. Had to draw every one of those, straighten the figures up. It worked. There's the comp. As they're getting ready for this. Okay, here we go. Let's see, now I finally get to the Empire Strikes Back stuff. Roy heading out the door, going on a vacation. I know what time of year it was because he went on a skiing vacation every year, February. And literally I'm calling, he says, Mark's got something for you. It's a tabletop shop. Won't be that big a deal. I'll see you in a week. 10 days. Okay. And Jenny's going to be here if you need anything. She'll be in and out. So, okay. So Mark says, okay, Kim, you're going to be doing something in this neck of the woods. Okay, that's cool. What am I doing? What am I highlighting? What's going on? Well, you remember that scene, this is it, and you're going to be doing something close to this. Oh, really? Yeah, this is going to be interesting. It's going to be a POP, and at that point, it's like, okay, what's a POP? But I don't want you to copy this, so don't copy it. But I want you to be similar to this, but not copy it. Okay, I got that. So I gave him something different. And he goes, no. Okay, no, it's not going to work. Okay. This is what's not going to work about it. Okay, I got you. Okay. Then he gave me something else. This is kind of what we really want. Notice the really want comes in. Why don't you just give me this up front? Tell me this. Tell me up front, but this is what you're wanting. Anyway, so I went back. Everything had to be rethought out. I had to figure out, and Jenny, thank God Jenny did come in because I had to take all these pictures. That's why they're so fuzzy. I didn't say she knew how to focus, but at least they're there. So I had to create this grid work, same kind of grid work that these will be up in here, that's holding up these acoustic tiles. I had to create down below, spanning 18 feet, because that's what it is wall to wall. Well, almost 18 feet. It is 18 feet, but I didn't have to walk that far. And it had to support all these ships. And that transporter is a hard copy. Yeah, very heavy. So yeah, I called up the Kenner, the guys, Mark up there, and hey, Mark, I need some stuff. What do you need? Well, I'm doing this POP and I for Terry, and it turns out it was Terry Bernard. I need some micro stuff. What do you need? Give me some X-Wings. I need some snow speeders. You got any ATSTs? Anything like, I need that. And I also need an additional ATs, ATATs and ATSTs, whatever you got. I said, got another shuttle? No, not another shuttle. Yeah, transporter? No. Okay. So I started working on it. Now, the reason I wanted the micros is I had to create depth of field here. I wanted to try as much as I could. And so that's what I did. So I'm literally going across. Everything's built on a 4x4 ping pong tables. That's what's in front. And I started out doing it. The camera is literally on the floor, upside down. Well, it had to be upside down because I needed it as far down as possible. And it was an old Cambo 8x10. So I'm going around and I'm hanging these things with fishing line and some very heavy fishing line for that transporter. And if you look at that light right down in the middle, that's kind of reddish, that's the one that has the optical snoot on it that I was trying to say earlier. So it's a little Mole Richardson, and the word just pops in. And I could literally focus that down. And it worked very well. But I had the whole thing lit up. I had light, the main light that I had, what I started with, just so I could see everything going on, as well as lighting everything up. So I'm going through, I'm lighting this thing. Mark Castier comes in. Kim, we need to do something in the background. Okay, so I got out some paint. We started, I said, you're not going to see anything back there. So I light it all up. I had already made my mountains and everything. Did what I needed to do. And there is a view. The camera, actually it's not on, it's actually on its side. It's all right. But I was down as far as I could go. But you see the grid work. I've got lights going everywhere. Terry Bernard came down to see it. I said, it's ready. He came down to see it. He looks at it, looks around, comes up, flips off my big light. And he looks at it, he goes, there's your shot. I'd gotten so used to coming in, turning every light on, I didn't try turning off a light. He says, you've already lit it, Kim. You don't have to do anything else. Just, you're right. That's it. The exposure, as I remember it, was about 90 seconds. And I am at a theoretical where was I? I was past F90. I was down as far as I could go it was my lens. It actually was a 210 lens of my personal lens, because I needed it wide, which gave it absolutely no tilts, no swings. It had nothing. It was like a box camera at that point. But there was the widest lens we had, was my lens. So there were not places to go out and just say, hey, can I use this lens? Or rent this lens? Or at least I didn't know of any at that time. So it's what I used, and I was down, I think I was like an F132 or something like that. This is way down. I kind of figured it out. It was like way down there. I was more after about depth of field. My focus was good, and I'm fine. So there is the final image. No lasers, and shot at 8x10, obviously, and with transparency and negative. And what happened from there is Kenner, the design studio, took it up here, Chicago, from my understanding. They put it on a computer. This is the first image that Kenner had ever retouched digitally retouched. And that gave us this. Now, I still had to get my thesis done. Now, I didn't own the studio, and this is ways down the line. So, bought the studio in '88 from Roy. Remind you, this was back in '82, I think. Bought the studio in '88. I said, I still got to do my thesis. I went over to Billy Ellison with two 11 by 14 prints and asked Billy if he would please take that image you just saw prior to the Blazers, take things out of this one, put lasers in this one, and let me photograph in between. What's it going to cost me? I want 2 bottles of scotch. I just said, what kind? At that point, I didn't care until I had to tell my wife what it was going to cost us. And it's worth it, honey. Trust me, it's worth it. So this is Bill. This is the only pictures that I know of that were actually showing Billy at work. And it turned out beautiful because this is what he gave me. And he wasn't looking at anything, say this is what it's supposed to look like. I just said, I need laser blasts. I need, engines and whatever. Okay. So that's what he gave me. So this is where I took my name from. This is the article. I figured they named me, why not use it? I mean, my parents named me, I used that, so come on. But I enjoyed it. I really did enjoy this. So I didn't go any further in the presentation because I didn't realize that they were going to be asking me to go all the way to 2000. But you can ask me questions about those. I don't even have any idea what time it is. Where are we at, Scott? So I still got 15 minutes? 12 minutes. All right. Okay, what you got here is this. You see this code? If you're wanting prints, this gets you 20% off of anything I have. And all you have to do is go to my website, which is really crappy at this point in time. But I know it. But I've also been told now the guy has got his head back on straight, and he's promised that he will have it up soon. Of course, I've been hearing that for the last 2 years, but it's okay. He promised me he'll have it up soon, and it will be. So this is a code. You have to mention this code. If you don't mention this code, Pat will not give you the 20% discount. So just letting you know, the only thing it doesn't apply to, and there's one image it doesn't apply to, and that's the John Hamm image. That's about this big, and that's probably where it should be, the discount on, because that image is like $1,000. But John Hamm does sign it. He has signed them, and you get all sorts of stuff with it. So there's the website. You can email me at any point in time, night or day, I don't care, because I'll open it in the morning. The website is also .net. That's where the archive is right now. The .com should direct you to the .net, okay? Just so that you know that. And that is it. I'm ready for questions. If anybody's got any questions at all. Oh my God, there's a question. Yes. Wait a minute, I go figure somebody out here. Got to get easy up here because I can yell it.
You had a book out that you just made.
Yes.
Any new ones coming down the pipe?
Oh, the book.
Wonderful.
Yes. I guess you want to hear about that, don't you? Yeah. I'm working with a guy by the name of Ben Sheehan. Ben is helping me on this book. My wife is laying it out. Couldn't find a publisher yet. So we're probably going to self-publish it. So that means it's expensive. But what we're going to, yeah, it does actually mean it's expensive. What I'm trying to do, and tell me if this makes sense to you. I want this book done right. I wanted it done more, I wanted it in the $30 range. Ain't going to happen. Because $30 is more comfortable for everybody. From everybody that I've talked to before, that felt more comfortable. It's going to cost about $50, just under 50. Okay, it's not a lot, but it's enough, and I know that. But what it's going to be is this, and unfortunately, this is the only way I can figure out to do this, because you're not going to take close to 1,000 images and cram them into a book that you're going to buy for $50, unless you want to pay for postage stamps. And I really don't want to do that. I want the images to be big and for you all to enjoy them. That's important. So what we're going to do, what I've been proposing, and hopefully since I'm kind of like the main driver of this, that somebody's going to listen to me, that means my wife, and Ben, is that we're going to lay this whole book out. I don't care how many pages, it will be 12 by 12 inches. That I will insist on. I don't care how many pages it'll be, but what's going to happen is we're going to divide it up at 102 pages per chapter. Okay? That's the point. At 102 pages, we'll be able to sell it for just under $50. That's a hard figure for me to spend. I just think about it. But anyway, that's all I can do. And there's only there'll be a lot more available. Ben is talking at least 500 copies. It's all going to be done in the United States, printed right there in Cincinnati. So basically, I can yell at them. I can get kind of nasty sometimes if I don't like something, I don't like it. This is not just my book. Yeah, it's my book. My name's going on it. But I'm looking at it from your point of view. You're paying $50 plus shipping to get a book that isn't done right? I'm sorry. It's got to be done right. That's important to me. Okay? That's the way I am. I do the prints because because you all enjoy them. Trust me, I'm not going to the bank a lot. Even with PayPal, I don't go to the bank a lot. It's something I do for you guys. Especially when you take in all the stuff you have to buy and everything. I enjoy it. And I enjoy helping you all I enjoy talking to you guys. That's why I said, you email me, I talk. Your problem is shutting me up. Okay? That's not my problem. That's your problem. Okay? I was talking to a guy in the UK the other day, and he looked, literally texting back and forth, and he's going, finally, and I'm looking at the clock, and it's 8 o'clock our time. And he's going, oh my God, I got to be up in 5 hours. I was wondering when you were going to say something. Okay, understand, that's the way it works with me. Even my wife's gotten used to that now. She says, what are you doing? I'm talking to somebody about the Star Wars. Okay, then door she goes. Because every night at 8 o'clock, it's movie time at the house. We project our TV. So that's what we do. It's my studio. I'm not going to spend money on TVs. I'll spend money on a projector, and if it breaks or something, then I'll replace it. But the studio's not going to waste. One wall's become my TV, and we project it. That's it. It's a 22, it's a huge screen, because it's a whole wall. It's the way and it's got surround sound. I piece together stuff, so it's kind of cool. It's not expensive, but it's kind of cool. I go to the drive-in every night. What can I tell you? So that's the way the book is, okay? I can't tell you how many chapters there are yet or what the ultimate end game will be, but I can tell you we're not going to the bank, because the whole idea is that the first book, and literally it'll be, I'm calling them chapters. 102 pages, that's a chapter. That literally is going to pay for the next chapter and the next chapter. It's got to go that way, okay? And that's got to do it that way. So I'm hoping it's going to be a success, because that means I get to continue on with it. And the end goal is when it's all paid. That's when all of a sudden I say, oh, good, I get to have my Starbucks card again. Yeah. Hey, I'm sorry, I like my Starbucks. But that's the only way that I can do this and without a publisher. Publisher's going to take it, knock it out, be $150, and how many people are going to buy it? Not a lot. That doesn't mean anything. I want you guys to be able to say, wow, I can get that. There's 500, okay, I can get that. There's going to be how many? I can budget for that. Not, if you understand what I'm talking about, and because that's important to me. That's the only way I can figure out how to do it. I want it kept in the United States, and I want it printed here. I'll ship it anywhere in the world, but I want it printed here in the United States. Call it nationalism, whatever you want. I don't care, but that's because I want that control. When I look at the images, if the color's not right, I'm going to yell at him because I know what the color is, what it's supposed to be when I look at it. So anyway, any other questions? Yeah.
What happened to the first two guys you talked about, Roy and?
Okay, well, they're both dead. They're both dead. Yeah, Jack died. Oh God, 25 years ago or better. And Roy died in the 90s. Yeah, and trust me, Roy really felt he was going to get the studio back. He didn't think I was going to make it. He says, "You're going to work with your wife?" I said, "Yeah." He says, you can't work with your wife, Kim. You can't do that. Well, my wife basically runs my life, okay? Understand that. Anything in the house, in the studio, she had most control over. Most. Outside the house, that's my baby. That's my farm's mine. But I proved Roy wrong. I worked with my wife. My wife was my accountant before the accountant. She was my bookkeeper when I started, and we also shot ice cream for 18 years for the Kroger Company. So I was doing the Star Wars stuff, I was shooting ice cream after Roy. She became my food stylist. She went to school. She had one of her many degrees was in sculpture. So styling ice cream, hey, that's just a leap. So now she's also an author. So she does everything. She holds me together. Then I know that. I have no problem telling anybody that. She tries to keep my feet on the ground. Tries. I can't tell her everything. She says, "Oh my God, look what it's going to cost us." I said, "No, not right now. I'm talking down the line." Okay, but no, I proved him wrong, and he admitted that. He says, "I didn't think you'd be able to do it. I just didn't think you'd be able to work with your wife, but boy, you really can." He came in and says, "I'm not going to get this back." I said, "No, you're not. We're good." So it's, yeah.
I was wondering how restrictive Kenner was with you submitted to the product photography. Like, for example, you touched on it with the TIE interceptor and that image with the TIE fighter pilot and the switch to the pilot. So would they say, "I want 9 sculptures"?
No. In fact, that first conversation didn't even go to Kenner. That was with the design studio. Then they're the ones that had to kick it upstairs. And I can tell you what they said. Geez, it was just too dark. We just couldn't make that one work. I mean, think about it. And by the way, we did have lights. Eventually, we called them Darth Vader lights. They literally were a little tri-light. We call it as a tri-light. It was a strobe light that you could literally focus, just like we did those little Mole Richardsons, optical out there. And it was 2,000 watt second light that would go down into the size of a quarter. And I did it with that. Now, also, one more little thing. You'll love this. I almost did away with those, but I didn't. I kept them. I went behind everybody's back. Put your ears, hands in your ears. I went behind everybody's back, and I went up to Billy, and I said, "Billy, I need a favor, and I don't want anybody to know about it. Can you take both of these?" I had 2 of them. Can you take both of these Darth Vaders and lighten them up a little bit? Just charcoaly. Just enough to where they'll not eat the light, so people can see what's going on there. It's black. You can put it back in printing. Yeah, I can do that. Just don't tell anybody I did it. Okay. That's how I worked that in along the way someplace in there during that whole lineup. That's why in that one hot scene with the ATST, he seemed a little brighter. Well, unfortunately, he was a little too bright, but they could add black to him if they wanted it. Nobody questioned what I did at all up until I starting lineup, and I asked him one question. Please, I understand Ken Griffey. I know Ken Griffey, but Ken Griffey Jr., can you just, in the model shop, can you just lighten him up a little bit? He's like an inch away from that green wall. I cannot lighten him up. Can you just put another light on it? You can make him the color he's supposed to be in post. It's like I'd assaulted a president. No, you cannot do that, Kim. Okay. You got what you got, because I can't get any more light into it. That's it. So that's it. Thank you.
Kim will be available in the social room if you have additional questions.
And
Thanks, Kim.
there's some my cards up here. There's some things up here that I forgot to mention.